Good morning. Hope everyone's doing really well. Hope you're getting to do what you want to do, with some time off, hopefully, or to see people. Hopefully, you want to see, and if you're going through it with family, holidays are really challenging for sure. Um, just learning to determine where the wound is with authority, like parents, the government, a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a wife or a husband, somebody has authority over you. It, it's a tricky one. Learning to be able to be who you truly are and not change yourself in the face of that which you deem having authority over you. Whether you're in a stage in your life that's very spiritual and woo woo, and that's embarrassing for you because of the reflection you receive from that authority, or if you're in a stage of your life where you're no longer woo woo and somebody in your family still is, and you're having a hard time being honest, speaking your truth. And then there's a difference between trying to force somebody to accept you. We're all seeking validation. And so this is a whole thing, and this is the Toltecs really focus on eventually bringing your life into balance to such a degree that you can go and seek out tyrants, people that you feel threatened by, people that have a perceived power over you, and go and figure out where your wounds are. If you heal your wounds, you can go and reclaim your power by working for people of that nature. It's like healing the past by fixing the present. And then there's also the act of, like, with working with friends, you can replay a role or replay a scene in your life, and you play it the way it happened, and you feel all the feelings that comes from replaying that, and then you play it a little different the next time. You change the scene, see how that feels, and then you go and keep doing that. Eventually, you change the scene exactly how you would have, in an ideal setting, resolved that issue, and it clears the energy. It's really incredible. Shamans talk about telling stories that happened that have difficult endings, and telling them in a new way, and changing the ending and setting the story free, telling the story, giving the story another option. If you read the Custody books, you read about that. There's a really powerful story in there that highlights that. I won't ruin that for you. A book that's come up that I really value that I may have not mentioned is Entering the Circle. Well, two books, Entering the Circle and Masters of Lucid Dreaming by Olga Karatidi. She was a Russian psychiatrist who went seeking answers from shamans in Siberia. Her books are powerful. I highly recommend it. It totally has nothing to do with the Toltec lineage, and yet it does, remotely. But also, I wanted to bring up that I'll be starting to do more online events. So, like, every couple weeks, I'll probably be online, where really anyone can join. So I'll be sending out that through my Facebook page, and I'll email anyone that I have an email for. Feel free to email me at fourdirections77@gmail.com. It's DIRECTIONS77 if you want to be involved. And eventually I'll start recording them, and they'll be going on my YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see other people who are getting involved and questions that get asked, and just keep talking about these subjects. And then every month, I think Rachel and I will be doing similar, a workshop type, an online workshop of sorts. Those might remain private for a while. Again, reach out if you want to be involved. But we're getting into a really powerful change in a time when we get to really heal our social contract and make peace with the contract that we've been working with, and be willing to really look closer at it and rewrite it. When people are trained under hypnosis hypnosis is a strange thing. Shamans basically do self-induced hypnosis, where you fast, or you get sleep deprivation, or certain movements or means to alter your perception as a way to reset your blueprint. The same thing would happen if you were trying to train a really powerful person on how to be an actor. You would put them through a series of challenging situations in where their perception moves and they reach altered states in which they can access that which is normally not accessed. And so there's all different ways to be liberated. Acting is one powerful way to be liberated, for sure. A lot of those people that you see as actors were raised from birth being put in altered states. And that's the MK Ultra programming. We all are, in a sense. As soon as you go to preschool, or as soon as you turn on a Disney movie, the first fairy tale, it's all MK Ultra programming. It's all hypnosis. And so we're many layers deep, because we were born into we were born into a world in which our parents were hypnotized. In order to get back to that which we actually, the aspect of us that is dreaming this, in order to reach that aspect of us, the recapitulation, drugs, there's not a lot of options to get back. The recapitulation is the only thing I know of that will thoroughly reach all the memory cells that you would need in order to re-establish your blueprint totally, which would be to unbind from the original hypnosis you came into based on the conditioning of your parents at the time. So this isn't stuff you would want to expedite anyways, so luckily the recapitulation is very difficult. It usually takes years for people to wrap their head around the idea of doing it, and then it takes years to do it. I offer, a way of doing it that's less intense than the books teach recapitulation. I've discovered another way. It's definitely, like I said, fast forward button's not necessarily ideal, but for some people it works. For me, it works. And because of the work that I did, now my recapitulation is becoming really guided. So it doesn't mean I won't do the thorough recapitulation eventually. It's just that at this point I'm not having to. And I don't think everyone's going to have to. I think the ego deaths and the way in which we will be guided will just promote and support those that are willing to let go, to not do, to unbind, to walk away from social power. If you're truly no longer interested or care about how people perceive you, and you're not afraid of being alone, and you trust, and you know that you will gravitate towards beautiful people. I've spent a lot of time alone, but I keep getting told to go more and more and more aloneness. And the rewards from listening are tremendous. And not everyone's the same. I like to be alone in the woods at night, in the dark. And most people don't feel comfortable there because they're not able to understand what they're feeling. There's an intensity. And if you can learn to look at it, it will jolt you, but it will wake you up on a level that makes you really appreciate the power of the night or the power of darkness. And so there's a lot to aloneness. Aloneness is sort of representing that darkness. It's a quietness. Silence and darkness go together. Sunlight brings sort of joyous thoughts and beautiful feelings and concepts and ideas, where if you can allow silence, and don't get me wrong, when you're sun gazing, right, like you can enter into pure nothingness. You can stop the world. So it's not like you can't reach the silence. It's just there tends to be an edge of optimism, that the type of joy that's different than the type of joy you receive in the dark. And it's just good to know the difference. It's good to know the difference between the feeling of, what twilight, morning, what it's like, the crack between the worlds, between day and night, and then the one between night and day. They're both the crack. The crack between the worlds represents the crack that exists for a woman, the menstruation. That's your time of power. There's so much to understand, to come to terms with. There's a reason why men and women didn't do ceremony together, especially when a woman was menstruating. As we become more aware and reminded of how incredible we are, we will have access to our power. Men have incredible power as well. Women are just very unique in that they have more than one way, more ways to detox than men, which means they're healthier, able to purify so much more effectively. They have access to an opening that men don't. Men need women for that opening. Luckily, we're born from a woman, so we have access to the mother. It's all incredible. Making peace with the body you were born in, regardless if it's the one you wanted, or the skin color, or size, shape, mood, parents, feeling, place on earth. Wishing you were something other than you are is, to me, discrediting. It's leaving a state of gratitude and entering a state of, it's sort of disrespectful. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, that you haven't been through trauma and that you don't need an outlet in order to heal, and you may think you need to do something extreme. I knew a kid, a young man he was just this redhead white kid that just wanted to be black more than anything, and literally, like, it was killing him. It's crazy. It was funny. And in that frustration, he became a really pretty successful criminal for a while. Like, he was just trying to fulfill a lifestyle that, wasn't really available to him, but he forced it to happen, and had really unique experiences. It's funny what our shadow leads us, what experiences it leads us to have. It serves a really valuable purpose, and most people I know do their best to avoid and repress what the shadow is seeking to communicate through its addiction, through its craving, through its need to express itself. And so that's where the work is. It's coming to terms with what wound is your addiction or your craving tied to. The wound, the craving or the addiction isn't negative. The benefit of moving beyond the craving is it leads to really powerful memory. Because if you don't fulfill the craving, it rushes through you and it shifts you into other times when you've had extreme craving. So it mixes with the recapitulation really well. Like, when you're getting a really strong wave of smell or feeling or desire or longing, all those senses, if you allow them to just sit with them and not fulfill or try to fix, if you allow them to move through you, they will reveal much, much more than it would if you just want to go and, stuff your face with the thing that would make you feel like, oh God, this, and it's okay that it's so cool that you have passion for something that strongly, that you love food or a drug or a person, whether it's a sexual addiction or a drug addiction or a food addiction, or an adrenaline addiction. So many different ways in which we avoid facing and feeling our power. Our power is in our capacity to truly face and not avoid, right? And so everything is at our fingertips. And that's confronting, because when you realize how powerful you are, then the self-responsibility piece shows up and you're like, oh fuck, I want to be able to stay where I'm at and blame somebody for being here. If I start doing things in a more independent and conscious way, I will evolve and I will have nobody to blame for anything if things go wrong. It's self-responsibility. It's breaking that spell of being a victim or a victor. Nobody knows how to be in the neutral. It's a rare state of perception. And you do need to go between victor and victim in order to learn about it. You can't pretend that you're not a victim. You can't pretend you're not feeling victorious. It's the way the ego works. The ego either jacks you on the high or the low. Oh, I'm nothing, I'm nobody. That's an ego. Or, wow, I'm really, fuck, man, I'm the best, or whatever the fuck. It just, this jostling, it hijacks your energy. It keeps you from seeing things for what they are. I've said this, but I'll reiterate that Carlos was often trying to prove that those that were born with money, born with knowledge or access to certain things, were far better off than anyone that wasn't. And Don Juan's argument was that to be a man of knowledge is the most powerful thing that anyone could become, and usually people that became man of knowledge were people that were born with nothing at all, and because of that, a door opened for them, allowing them to have access to something unimaginable. So to say that your fellow man has an advantage because he was born with more, silver spoon in his mouth, none of that's true. That actually is a disadvantage almost, because it's less likely that a person of that nature becomes a man of knowledge. And to be seduced or trapped by the social power for life because you're hooked to your money is distorts the human spirit. And we're here to make the human spirit shine, to heal the luminosity within our relationship, so that our eyes become a reflection of the abstract, right? So that we've seen so much beauty, we've been affected so profoundly by that which we find to be beyond comprehension. When you are able to look at those types of things and sustain that observation, it changes your being. And we are directly affected by that. That beauty infuses us. So does horror, right? Trauma. So you've seen people who've just seen, you can just tell they've seen so much. And usually it's PTSD. They're just riddled with it. I am. The way in which I gained my experience was very PTSD inducing, extremely PTSD inducing. I'm so fortunate to have healed. So our capacity to be honest with ourselves will never cease to be a challenge. Every step of the way. So learning about yourself through different means and methods. I am sunlight to me became a solution at a certain point. It was just more important than anything, just having access to the sun. And it's not, I live in places that don't have access to the sun all the time, so I store it up. When I spend a lot of time in the sun, I use the sun as a means to heal on so many levels. Even if it's not available, I have access to it within my dreaming, and it lights me up. It's a very real friend to have and to know. And it's okay. It seems silly, but you can talk to the sun. You can talk to the earth. You can talk to your dead relatives. You can talk to your sister you haven't talked to in years. You don't even have to call them up. You just talk to them. Just speak to their higher self. Share the truest feelings within yourself. Speak your feelings out to your boyfriend in junior high that you're still upset with. Speak those feelings out. They're trapped in your body. Extract them. Speak them. Voice them. Intend to be purified through release of all that you no longer need to carry. A lot of us are carrying baggage that is not necessary, and in fact, we're carrying it just to prove a point, and we're just hurting ourselves, and it's masochistic. We are addicted to suffering. We suffer unnecessarily. Suffering's part of the system. And so what we do is we try to get rid of the suffering that we don't want. And we hang on to the suffering that we do want. And then when the universe is trying to take away the suffering that we're holding on to and try to help us walk through the suffering that we're meant to go through, that we're trying to get rid of. So everything's inverted, 100%. Totally inverted. Like, it's perfectly inverted, because that's the dream we're in, is an inversion, an expression of inversion, because the inversion teaches us about balance. If you can understand the inversion, you can understand, it's learning the dualistic opposites. It's understanding the contradictions. It's incredible. Freedom is the pursuit of moving beyond limitations of groupthink. Really, groupthink is what keeps us from freedom. but freedom is dangerous. Freedom can become schizophrenic, right? So you want, like I've always said, to do this slow, to remove your shields carefully and replace them with a new skill set that is based on the abstract, a love based outlet, dancing, a type of practice that heals you. It's just, if you're going to take your shields down, it's an opportunity for you to feel things on a level you've never felt. And because of that, you want to respect the fact that you're using your body, your system, your being in a new way, and therefore up the maintenance. You're like, okay, well, I'm upping my capacity with this system, so I'm going to take the advice of those that have done the same and support that upgrade by doing all the things that go along with that, to ensure that I don't fry my nervous system attempting to feel something I'm not prepared to feel on a sustainable level. Resiliency, freedom, resiliency, sustainability, acceptance. Forgiveness. Everything that's ever happened in the past is currently happening right now. And we haven't processed it, so it's especially thick. The movements I teach go right to the thick areas and displace and move that energy across your whole sphere. The other way to do it is to go into the memory itself and resolve what it is that you have not been able to clear or feel or release. So as a child, we're taught to hold our feelings in because they're too much for our parents, and then because that's not healthy, we develop very strange means to cope, and then those coping mechanisms become like armor around our emotion, around our heart, around our feeling centers. And in order to avoid the fact that we have this armor, we have addiction. And it's hard to look at how we got there, but for you as an individual to be able to look at each stage and break it down is a means and method to understand the inner child. The inner child is still afraid, is still traumatized because those events are still occurring. And so often the inner child needs to be addressed in a specific way in order for it to feel safe to fully share. Lots of ways to do that. Rachel and I offer support in that respect, and we have people that we recommend who are very helpful with this as well. It changes everything. It really does. It heals your blueprint with your sexual, financial, emotional, and physical lives. It is confronting. It's very effective. So know that there's solutions, and those solutions are going to continue to get more and more available, and more they're going to resonate. A lot of the things I say, it's going to take time for people maybe to recognize how valuable these alternative methods are. They're very strange. The things that I do and what I've gotten into are, honestly, it's something that most of the world's not ready for. It's just the way it is. Toltec stuff is it's um, it's complex in its simplicity. It's simple in its complexity. It's ahead of its time on a level that's pretty significant. So I'm not expecting people to gravitate in large numbers toward this work. I know that that's not how this works. But those that do gravitate toward it are going to have access to feelings and knowledge that is really rare and is going to be really hopeful for those that are going to need support. As we head into a really, really powerful transition. It's the craziest time to be alive with what's going on. And everything's a distraction and everything's an opportunity. And when I say everything's a distraction, it's because this whole thing's an illusion. So even me here recording this is a distraction. You watching this is a distraction, and yet we're seeking to unbind from distraction, and so by talking about it, it's very helpful. There comes a point where talk is no longer supportive, and it becomes an action that you as an individual take in order to become free. Freedom is not free. It requires that pretty much you give everything. Because once you understand what true freedom is, you would be willing to give everything. You would trade everything. The Castaneda books really are the only books I know that share that struggle for freedom. And we are in a struggle for freedom right now. We are in a situation in which communism is being allowed to take over the whole system. And obviously that leads to, if that were to be successful because of the time that we're in within our technological development, or the fact they're allowing us to learn about the technology now to a degree. Yeah, we're just on the cusp of entering a transhuman dystopia. And whether that happens or not does not matter. What happens is what you do with your time, period. I know what hill I'm willing to die on, right? I'm not willing to ever wear a mask. I'm not willing to ever take a test. I'm not willing to ever, take an experimental drug or any medicines. And I don't need it. I don't want anything to do with any of it ever. And I'm not willing to sacrifice myself to go out there and make sure that others don't have to go through anything other than my kids. So knowing where you're at, knowing what freedom is to you, learning how to navigate this world, right? Like, I was just in Oregon, because I won't wear a mask. I wasn't able to enter they have that whole state on lockdown. Like, you cannot enter any building without a mask, without being fucked with. I do anyways. But I have to be so creative. I have to be so sincere and kind, and I have to use my stalking skills to get the things that I need. And I always get what I want because I know how to work the person that I'm working that's off, it's just a matter of being able to make the adjustment. And that's what we're going to learn is stalking. This is a great time to learn how to walk between the lines, to not be seen, to be bold, to develop to be guided, and to know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, why to say it, timing. You'll know when to go in the store. You'll know, your body will tell you. But if you're trying to win, you're trying to force yourself, you're trying to be victorious, you're there to fight. I have no fight with anybody, right? So I'm able to get all the things. I'm able to speak to their soul, and in doing so, incredible results occur. So sometimes going through situations that are really challenging like that, and being vulnerable, and asking for somebody to work with you, to help you, or to convey to them the urgency or the need for your situation so effectively that they volunteer to help you, or whatever it is, whatever you're guided to say. Learning to follow your intuition is how you learn these types of things. So at your job, you'll know really who to avoid and who to become friends with, and you'll learn about boundaries and how much to share and how much to not share. It's like it's an art form. Knowing when to be quiet and not say anything. It's a verbal judo. Usually people will speak themselves and expose themselves if they're out of balance. So as long as you're doing what you're guided to do, which will, if it's true guidance, you'll be guided to do, you'll be guided to continue forward in a harmonious way with everything that you're doing. And so as long as you're in balance, you will feel that, and you won't be lying, and you may be creatively changing the story in order to get what it is that you're being guided to try to get. The trick is to just be detached to the outcome, knowing that spirit will provide regardless. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be taken care of. It may not be the way you want it to be, but there's an opportunity being presented because of the challenge that you're in, and it's a matter of loving challenges rather than avoiding them. As soon as we do that, we reset the intent of our relationship with power. And then coming out of social power, which means you're no longer seeking the validation of the social construct. Instead, you're seeking a relationship with the mother, with the father, directly, with nobody there to tell you whether that's real or not. It's a direct and total and complete revolution of the way in which we've been taught to interact. You become your own shaman, you become your own guide, you make use of all the tools that exist, and from those tools you creatively make them your own. You integrate them in a way that makes you liberated. So freedom is freedom from groupthink, freedom from the description your parents gave you and that the world gave you. It's freedom from the limitations of believing that we're immortal and behaving as such. So knowing and asking your death to be a part of your life and to advise you, we often are wasting our energy and our time on things that are unnecessary, when we could be healing our lives doing the very same thing, but realizing that it's offering freedom. So what we think is a distraction is often just something we need as a tool to temporarily take a break from the intensity of pursuing freedom. And so it's just about the words we give to these things. The movies, TV, all these things can be powerful. Taking a break and just letting something distract you can be healing. Allowing yourself to fully feel everything, and however you can do that, is a powerful means for you to be well, to reach harmony. So comedies, learning to truly allow yourself to watch the old movie that you haven't seen in a long time, that will make you feel nostalgia and sadness and joy and laughter all at the same time. Like, be where you're at. Use the tools that are available to you. Find any means to love yourself. Even if you don't mean it, tell yourself that you do until you do. Rub your heart until you feel it open. You want to get all the chakras spinning like healthy vortexes, and you can do that. You can have somebody help you too, but each one takes, they all have, they're actually way out here, but you can do it wherever you want. But learning to have and understand when your system is in balance and harmony, and when it's working and feeling it. So there's tears that you can't get out, let's work on that. If you haven't found a way to laugh in a long time, let's find means for you to remember that feeling and allow it to come back in and change your being. Hope everybody has an amazing time during these crazy days, and I'll be in touch soon, and I'll be reaching out for opportunities to meet online and stuff, and talk to you soon. Take care.